What is the most disgusting secret you're hiding right now? In primary school, elementary, me and my friends saw water dripping from the rooftop on the playground. Without thinking, we'd let it drop into our mouths and drink it. Giggling and excited, we'd found our own water source. A teacher caught us and we had to be checked out because it turned out the water was coming from a pipe or something that rats had ran through. We had a candy corn counting contest in like 4th or 5th grade where you guess how many are in the big jar. When no one was looking, I carefully took the tape off the top thinking I was going to count them all or something, and saw that they had written the total on the inside of the top. So, being a genius, I took out about 30 of them, ate the evidence, and put my guess in for the number -35, ya know. So it wouldn't be suspicious if I got it on the nose, not realizing they weren't going to recount them. The winner guessed it within 20 of the number on the bottom of the lid. So basically, I cheated, sabotaged, and still lost, and I kept all that stupidity to myself for all these years. When I was 10, I used to dance nude in the balcony after a bath just to piss off my mom. When my sister was younger, probably around 2 to 4 age range, whenever she did something I asked her to do, I gave her a dog bone as a reward. She never listened when we were younger, but as soon as I started giving her dog bones, she was a different person. It was great. This was almost 20 years ago now, and I would've gotten away with it too if it weren't for my meddling mom asking why her breath smelled like dog food randomly. When I was younger, I would steal coins from my parents, and when I had enough, I would bring them to my dad and had them changed to paper bills, and he would be so proud of me for saving coins that he would buy me ice cream or sweet bread. As a student with a shitty waitering job paying me almost nothing, I used to eat the food my customers didn't want after I took their plates to the kitchen. One time I spit my gum into a donation box for kids with autism thinking it was a trash can. That last year when I was suspended from work for 6 months, it was due a failed post-accident drug test. I wasn't laid off. My younger brother used to eat the dog food because he thought it would make him better friends with the dog. We began to leave a bowl out for him next to the dog bowl. A majority of the time, the voice in my head first thoughts are just really unnecessarily mean. Towards myself, but especially others, even those I care about. Extremely nitpicky, selfish, rude, etc. thoughts. I don't understand why. Sometimes it leaks out into the real world on its really bad days. And I'm just an ass. It makes me feel pretty bad about who I am as a person sometimes. Because I really just want to be a lovely person and think the best about others. And I don't feel like a good one very often because of these thoughts. I guess maybe op meant nasty equals disgusting. But it feels disgusting to me some days. When my sister and I were little, she would lick her cat because she thought she was helping to clean him. My one friend has no idea that I've known that he doesn't have kids for months. Also that I know he's been saying this and lying to everyone for attention. He tells a very convincing story. He goes into vague details. Has a photo of the girl. Says that she's been showing him fake paperwork as proof for the children. If what he says is true, would be literally extortion. Everything. Little does he know that I've been watching closely and also researching to find this woman. I know she isn't real and that he's lying and been lying this whole time for almost a year. Nothing he says makes sense and it just keeps escalating, which also doesn't make sense. I literally couldn't help myself but investigate. If everyone finds out that he's been lying this whole time, it will spread like wildfire. He doesn't have many friends, and the friends he did have stopped talking to him because of his compulsive lying. I had a friend like that in college. I talked to him about it, and while he took it super hard at first, I gave him examples and he broke down. It turns out he had been so severely bullied for his whole life that he had absolutely no confidence in being able to attract and keep people in his life without those lies. It took a lot of time and work on his part and me kindly and patiently reminding him when he slipped on my part. But he changed. I gained a solid friend as a result of my being willing to stick around and work with him through it. It was a life-changing experience for both of us. When I was 8, my 19-year-old cousin tried to make out with me. I remember him rubbing my leg and kissing me in the kitchen whilst my mum was in the living room. I didn't understand what was really happening at the time, but I knew I didn't like it. I kept nervous, giggling and pushing him away. After a couple of minutes he looked disappointed and walked away. I don't remember if he ever tried anything else. He was killed in an accident 3 years later, and I chose never to tell anybody as I didn't want to add to my aunt's grief. I used to lie. Like a lot. I used to make up stories to tell people. Just for the sake of it. I don't do it anymore. Although this leads me to telling the same stories over and over. Oh, this was totally me in like first grade when I was 6. Hey, do you know that there is a bee in China which is the size of a cow and shoots its stinger like a projectile, and at one point it impaled a man straight through? It's true. Worst part is, since it was first grade, kids actually believed my nonsense. There were at least 1 million complete fabrications that I told these kids, and I bet that I appear like some kind of complete lunatic in their eyes looking back. Uncle confided in me that he stopped taking the medications that are keeping him alive because he can't handle the weight of his life. Currently trying to be there for him as much as I can. But haven't told anyone because I feel like it's his choice. And I'd likely want the same in his situation. He's just worn out and feels like he's done his time. And has already done what he can for the people around him. Reminds me of my uncle. We each have a rare muscle condition that will probably put us in wheelchairs later in life. And found out he's been doing meth and robbing homes to fund it. I love him so much. It hurts to see him doing something that will hurt others as well as himself. When I was in middle school, I was being bullied physically and mentally. Quite bad. My grades dropped and my mom got upset, so there was this period of fighting before we got into therapy together. The worst thing I've ever said to my mother was, "I wish I had been a miscarriage like my older brother. Mom and I are very close now and I'm back in therapy for different issues, smiley face." During lockdown, my sister had a meltdown because she thought I had stolen a pair of nail clippers shaped like a foot that she owned. I told her, truthfully, that I also had a pair and that she had stolen mine. They actually were hers. I found mine an hour later. Rather than tell her, I gave back hers and said, "If they mean so much to you, you can have them." I then hid mine in her bag when she went back home after lockdown. She got there and found the 2 nail clippers and now believes that she was wrong and that the nail clippers she had a meltdown over were actually mine. In biology class, we were dissecting a pig's eyeball and my hand slipped and the eyeball fell on the floor, and me being extremely lazy, I kicked it under a cabinet and it lay there for 2 years until someone finally found it. I'm just picturing some unfortunate cleaner randomly finding this fucking desiccated eyeball. I've cleaned biolabs and a desiccated eyeball isn't even very high on the list of disgusting things we find. Once body parts are dried up, they hardly smell at all. I secretly broke a 2,500 euros printer. That is rare and precious. I just fixed it just enough that the second person using it got blamed for this and almost expelled from school. I made up a person. When I was in high school, I wanted to sound more popular, so I made up a guy friend. He had an incredibly interesting backstory. This went on for years. Well into college, I had the same friends, so I couldn't just end the charade. The funny thing is, all of these people, my family, my best friend, even my husband, believed that they met this man. I never introduced them to anyone. But over the years, they all have different memories of seeing him. Finally, I just sort of phased him out, saying that we grew apart and lost touch. And yet, people will randomly ask me for updates on him. I just give vague answers and watch my husband smirk from across the room. My husband is the only person who knows the truth. I am so ashamed that I will never admit it. That lie was such a dumb thing that snowballed. That there is someone on my Facebook who is lying about her dad passing of cancer whilst her eldest daughter, 8 years old, is fighting a brain tumor. It is all lies. Her dad is alive and well. Her daughter is completely healthy. One of the pictures she used as proof is her daughter lying on a hospital bed. From what I know, she was just in for observation after a small fall. She has 2 Facebook profiles. One for all her family and friends of the family. And the second one, that I'm friends with, is for old school friends. General acquaintances and anyone she dates, etc. There's so much more lies, but those 2 ones are the ones I know 100,000% to be false. Edit. This went a bit mental. I tried to confront her, this was last year, and she denied it. Going as far to provide screenshot messages between her and her sister. However, the reason I knew it was bullshit was by speaking to her mum and passing on condolences. Yep. Didn't go down well. Her mum accused me of being mistaken until I showed her screenshots of the posts. She didn't reply. That's when I confronted the liar by message, countering her screenshots with the ones between myself and her mum. I was swiftly blocked. As far as I know, she's still lying. She's had several miscarriages, cervical cancer, dad dying, daughter fighting cancer, and many more. I'm completely blocked from all her socials, so I can't say for certain if she's still lying. I did tell her to get help. I admittedly took it very personally as my dad had passed away not long before she lied about her dad. So it hit a nerve. She never admitted to it. Never explained. Instant block. So fuck you, Natalie S, for being an attention-seeking noband. A buddy of mine had a wife that used to be a stripper. She ended up leaving him for one of her patrons. Before she left him, she was impregnated by him, my buddy. She ended up marrying the guy she left him for, and the newish dad is basically raising his kid. I'm still friends with both of them on Facebook since I was cool with both of them, and her son definitely looks like him. This was maybe 7 to 8 years ago. I just shut the fuck up about the whole situation. A guy whose dad worked on our farm took me way out back when I was about 7 to 8 and made me suck his dick. Probably happened about 12 years ago, only my GF knows. I was molested and raped for like 5 years by me neighbor, and went on a mission to convince myself I wanted and loved sex in a sick attempt to take back power, but just ended up letting other older men abuse me for most of my teenage life. I got addicted to drugs, and I still feel like a 10-year-old boy, and everywhere I look lately I see me as a kid. In the reflections of windows on the black screen of my phone looking out at me in horrible nightmares, it's like my mind has finally snapped. I can't even brush my teeth in silence because it feels like 100 voices are in my head screaming at me, and my hair has started falling out in lumps. I don't know what to do. I feel like a diseased animal, but I don't know what to do. I don't know who to tell or how to even begin changing and becoming the man I should have been. My life is ruined, and I don't know how to stop self-destructing. I just wish it never happened and that I could be the boy I once was before he ever touched me and ruined me. I drew a massive penis on the ceiling in my art classroom, probably a meter long, and it's been there for years. I asked friends who have brothers and sisters there, and they say it's still there. It's been like 8 years now. That I hit some kid in the back of a trampoline park with a chain I grabbed off of a fence because he kept poking me. I dropped a bun in the self-service area of a convenience store. I didn't pay for it. I just kicked it under the shelf and left. One morning I couldn't be bothered making my breakfast and a coffee. So I added instant coffee to my cereal. Mixed it into the milk and ate coffee cereal. One of my friends has nudes of our mutual friend's mom. Fucking hell, he doesn't know it. He video calls her at night. Honestly, I haven't told that many people about this, so it's nice to get this chance to vent a bit. When I was around 5M, I got raped by my older brother's friend who was around 12 or 13 at the time. My parents didn't report it because they'd get in trouble with the police, and when I called my mum out on that bullshit, she said that she was worried about how people would view us. Currently 15. Kinda confused because I'm planning on doing something when I leave the house, but there's no evidence at this point, so it's just my word against his, and honestly, not really sure whether my parents will take my side if I do take a stand. Only my rapist's parents. My parents and my younger brother know. I occasionally went to a convenience store when I was a kid to buy some stuff that my parents ordered me to get for home. They almost never gave me allowance at the time, so there was that brand of Jell-O candy which was in a wrapper. I'd open it a little and take from the candy every time I visit that store. One time, I got caught and a worker there accused me of stealing, and when he searched my pockets, he found nothing, although I was storing some in the same pockets that he had searched. It was a close call. My younger sister was with me at the time. I felt disgusted from myself back at the time, and since then, I never stole anything under any circumstances. I got nudes from my best friend's mom. During my senior year of high school last year, I got bored and horny and decided that I would try and get some nudes from her since she was always kinda attractive. I think she was a little drunk, but anyways, she ended up sending me a few and she allowed me to save them. My friend doesn't know that this happened. There was also a second time I got nudes from her.